Hi guys, it's Angela here and welcome to my podcast, In Bed with Angela. So today I'm going to be talking about psychic mediumship and what it is like to work with spirits. So I have been a psychic medium for 5 years now, running my business Angela Waitapu, but growing up I actually experienced a lot of spiritual stuff, including seeing my granddad before I actually knew that he'd passed away. Coming into the room, I was by myself in the hospital and he was in the hospital and I didn't know he'd passed away, but he walked in the room. So when they came to tell me he'd passed away, I was like, yeah, I already know. Also, when I was on holiday with my nan, I was in Turangi and my parents were, I think, here in Hamilton at the time. And I didn't know it, but during the night my cat had actually passed away. But during the night when I was in Turangi, I actually saw the cat on the end of my bed when I woke up. And it wasn't until the morning my mum rang my nan up and said the cat in Hamilton had actually passed away. I also had experiences the night before my wedding to my ex-husband in Rarotonga. I was asleep and I was standing at the end of my bed, but I could see myself in bed asleep. And my nan actually walked through the wall, said to me, "You're going to look beautiful," smiled, and then walked back through the wall again. But I also used to pick up lots of stuff about people, and I used to always attract people with their problems and everything, and I always felt like I needed to give them some advice or help them. That was something that would kind of happen with me. But about 5 years ago, I went through a spiritual awakening. I fucking thought I was going nuts. I was knowing stuff about people. I was feeling energy. I was seeing, hearing things, both while I was awake and while I was asleep, and just feeling things. I even had someone in the house stomping around. I managed to get rid of them. I'm working with Archangel Michael. That's all my spiritual experiences that I kind of had going into this. This is pretty much how I became a psychic medium. My most significant experience that I had was I was live on Facebook, and a lady came on and she wanted to know if her husband was guilty of murder. And I was like, I don't know if I should do this. But then I kept getting messages in regards to it throughout it. And I said to her, look, I'll message you off live. Because during this live, I had a little boy running towards me, and it was him that had actually been murdered. He was a Latino, and he would have been 3 or 4. And then I saw who had actually done it. It was a male Latino guy standing behind me, which, by the way, was not this lady's ex-husband, because she was actually white American, and so was her and her daughter. Anyway, and I felt trauma to my head. Blunt trauma to the head. I've forgotten what it's called. I've completely lost it. And I could see him holding a big hammer above me. And then I was seeing that, it was not her ex-husband. Because what had happened is she actually told me that in therapy, her daughter had actually said that it had been done with a big hammer, and that was not her dad that had done it. And I didn't know that until she told me. What basically happened in this situation is that this lady's ex-husband and daughter had gone to the little boy's place, and then they'd actually taken the little boy home after he'd been hit on the head with a hammer. And it was by a Latino, not by someone who was white American, is what I want to say. I told her all of that. I described what the guy looked like, because I kept being shown him by my guides. I'm in the distance, in the same room as me, but on the other side of the room. And I didn't want to get up. I said to my guides, don't zoom in on saying he had a tattoo on his face. He was Latino, and his eyes were just those eyes that don't look good, they look like he's evil. It was kind of like that. Very kind of looking. So I don't want to say, didn't want to go near him, even though it was only the energy of him. A white t-shirt, white cut-off sweatshorts, and he had white socks on, and Adidas blue slide-ons. So I kind of heard the description of that, and I don't know what happened after that, but it was the most significant one, because it's one that made me cry, because it was a murdered child, which I think for any psychic medium is just going to hit you straight to your heart. especially if you have kids of your own. So I went outside and I ended up bawling for like an hour or two to get that kind of one out of my system. Because, yeah, it can be quite emotional work that we do and can have an impact on us. But, yeah, that was probably the most significant one. And that's how it affected me. Yeah, it was quite heavy work. Did I have any mentors or specific training? I actually did some courses. I did a beginner's one, and it was just a Udemy one because I thought, the stuff that's happening to me has got to be like spiritual or psychic or something. So I went into the beginner course and I just started practicing. I started doing readings, just started off doing cards. Then I started to see things, hear things, and I was just getting everything like bang on, spot on. So I just kept practicing. And that was probably the biggest thing. Like, if I could give you advice, that's what it would be. Take a cheap course. You don't need a big, massive, fancy ass course that you need to do. Just start off with like a really cheap Udemy course. I went into the intermediate one, and then I realized I actually already knew the stuff that was in it. I was like going through it. I was like, I already know all this stuff, but I didn't know how I knew it, right? Which is kind of like clear cognizance, which I'll go into soon. So that's kind of what I did. And I think my biggest mentors, honestly, have been my tūpuna, other people who are working in this space. Because I think when I kind of teach as well. So when you teach, you also need to be open to learning from like your students and other people too. So I've learned a lot just from my followers, my tūpuna, my guides, and just reading books sometimes too. Is where I got most of my knowledge from, or just downloads of messages that I receive as well for myself. It's kind of how I've learned. What does it feel like when you connect with spirit? Oh, it's amazing. I kind of like hear them, or suddenly just see them pop up behind me, or see them off to the side, or left or right. And it's really nice to know that they're there for you and that they support what it is that you're doing. It's quite exciting, to be honest with you. It's probably the most fulfilling thing that I have probably ever done in terms of like career. I spent a lot of my time, like before I became a psychic medium, I was not doing much with my life, to be perfectly honest with you. I was pretty much just a housewife, cooking, cleaning, but I was bringing up my daughter, but I travelled quite a lot throughout my life as well. But yeah, I think this is probably the most fulfilling career. And it's actually what I love doing as well. So yeah. How do you differentiate a message from spirits compared with your own thoughts? And this is why you kind of do meditation as well. So you can kind of clear your mind of your own shit and just, you kind of know that it's not from your own thoughts, because when it's your own thoughts, it's kind of involves thinking. But I find that when it's spirit, it just kind of comes to you as opposed to you pushing or thinking as such. It's almost like clearing out your mind and just sitting there and just being open. And then it's kind of received. So it's very, very different from, because it'll just like pop into your head too. Like, and you won't know really where it comes from because it wasn't your own thoughts. So that's kind of the main way in which you know that it's not your own thoughts. Because when we tend to think, God, as human beings, we overthink like so freaking much when we bloody shouldn't. That's what I do want to say. So that's kind of how you kind of know, because the way in which it's received is very different too. What's the process I go through when reading for somebody? There's a process. I mean, obviously, I do preparation beforehand, is what I do want to say. I do the unity prayer, I do karakia, I go outside and ground and meditate for at least half an hour before I actually do any type of reading. I make sure I drink a lot of water, I make sure I've got my crystals, I make sure I've got my incense, my candles lit, because I do like candles, and I light 3 of them, one's for my spirit guides, one for my angels, and one for my ancestors, actually, to connect with those energies for people. But yeah, I make sure that I have lots of water on hand. I make sure I have a notebook and a pen because I receive most of my messages this way as opposed to using cards. I do use cards though because people kind of like them, or if I'm guided to do that, I do. But otherwise, I just receive the messages via my clears, which I will talk about. And that's basically what I do in regards to my preparation. Oh, have I ever encountered a spirit that was difficult to communicate with? I think when someone has been living and they've been quite quiet or quite shy, it can be kind of challenging to communicate with them because that's just their personality. you know. I've even had ones who, may have been religious, like Christian or Catholic, and they've still come through. But yeah, the most difficult ones have been those who've been like quiet or very shy or reserved. Or what happens is, people might want to communicate with a certain family member, but instead I'll end up bringing forth somebody else because they are more like wanting to give a message to the person you're doing reading for, or they're just stronger in terms of like that's just their personality kind of thing. Whereas those who are quite reserved are probably more difficult to communicate with because that's just, like I say, that's just their personality and that's how they are. Um, so I'll kind of communicate that with the person I'm giving a reading for. Sometimes if they have just passed away too, they'll tell me that they're kind of processing it, especially if they've unalived themselves. And they could be going through like the process of it or healing and things. So there can be a little bit of that sometimes, especially if it's like literally just happened and they've just passed away. And they can be quite raw for a lot of people too. So you've got to be mindful of that, sometimes they may not take it all in when someone that they love has just passed away because they're so emotional and traumatized and all of that. So it's about being understanding and being aware of that as well when you're giving a reading to somebody. What are some myths about mediumship? Oh, the number one would be we don't believe in God and we don't believe in Christ. And yet they're the two main things that actually set me on this journey. Yes, actually, one of the things that actually kind of triggered my spiritual awakening was actually getting upset with God, and then it all started happening. But if I'm getting upset with God, that means I believe in God because I was communicating with God, right? So yeah, and there's a lot of belief that we connect with demons. That's what we do, but we don't. I do know that there are people that work with demons. But our beliefs around demons are very different from other people's. So I think it's more about like educating yourself when it comes to mediumship and what it is that we actually do, not just making assumptions based on what you believe. And it's okay to believe differently than what we do, but I think it's about having respect for other people's beliefs too, because what we are meant to do in this lifetime might be different from what you're meant to do. So everyone has a different path in life that is theirs, and we're all at different stages of learning as well. So, it's all about learning and growth, really. Some of the other things I think they think is that we all like just make it up or that we're all scammers. And I think that's due to the fact that there are actually scammers out there, and a lot of us who are professional psychic mediums do get our pages and our content and everything being copied by other people who pretend to be us. And then they communicate, like they'll send messages to people offering them a reading. Most professional mediums that I know of will not do that. They don't send messages asking if you want a reading from them. You are meant to contact us, and it's really important if you are looking for a psychic medium to go and watch them. If they're doing live readings and things like that, go and watch. You don't necessarily need to get a reading from them in the live, but just to get to know them and how it is that they read, because everyone reads kind of slightly differently as well. And everyone's gifts are slightly different, but that doesn't make them better than anybody else, is what I will say. So just go with who you kind of resonate with and feel a strong connection with, and who you feel is going to give you the type of reading that you are actually wanting for yourself. Okay, or should I say needing, because sometimes people don't know. Sometimes people want something when they actually need something else, which does come out in readings. So some people will come for a love reading, whereas their guide's like, this person actually needs to concentrate on their career or on something else. And messages may come about that aren't actually what they were wanting, but they are actually the messages that they're actually needing. So there's that too that kind of comes through as well. It really depends on what it is they are wanting and asking about as well. Have I had an experience that scared me or challenged my beliefs? Not really. Like when I first went through an awakening, I was kind of scared, because I was actually getting physically touched, and I do get physically, which is part of my clairsentience, which freaks out a lot of people when you get physically touched by spirit. But me, I I'm not scared anymore. Like, I think there's a lot of people that work like in like a fear with a fear-based mentality, which does tell me that they still have a lot of healing to do, as we all do. Um, but there's a lot of fear-based stuff as well, which I think a lot of people need to kind of get out of, because it can actually kind of, you're putting a block or self-sabotaging the mahi that you're doing when you kind of operate that way as well. So I think it's really important to kind of work on that and self-reflect on that as well, and see what kind of comes up for you. But yeah, there's nothing that's really like challenged my beliefs as such. um, no, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Maybe just some of the stories that I tell myself sometimes, in regards to believing in myself. And, and sometimes I do feel stuff in lives where I feel like judged. And sometimes that feeling is like not the nicest feeling to get, when you're really, really sensitive and have such a big heart. It actually really upsets me quite a lot. Um, and due to this, I've kind of had to block a lot of people as well, because knowing their true intentions and how they really feel about you is quite hurtful. It can be to anybody. um, and that's kind of, my gift of discernment is quite strong, so that's kind of been kind of probably the biggest challenge for me in terms of friendships and relationships as well. Learning to like trust them and whether they have the right intentions in regards to me, um, has been kind of probably my biggest challenge, actually. Also jealousy. There's a lot of jealousy in the speakment industry too, and there shouldn't be. We should be out there supporting each other and each other's businesses. Yeah. Oh, how was real life mediumship different from TVs and movies? Oh my goodness. Like I said before, a lot of fear based stuff. Um, that you have to kind of sit there, almost like science, seance style, and do it. But you don't have to. I mean, there are people that do seances, and you can communicate with, um, and do mediumship that way. But you can do it, like on your own as well. But there's a lot of like, oh my god, there was a noise, it must be a demon, and then it turns out it's somebody's bloody sweet, loving grandmother. You know, so there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of like, just trying to scare people a lot in those TV shows and things, where it's actually not that scary. But again, it's about like learning and having conversations and educating yourself in the way in which mediumship actually truly works, because it's actually nothing like what it actually is on TV and things. I do like watching the program Kindred Spirits. I think that's really good because they do get actual mediums in there. Um, but yeah, but some of those other ghost ones are just like, they're just to scare people, and I'm not really in alignment with that. And I think that a lot of professional psychic mediums would agree with me on that. But of course, I don't know. Maybe there are ones that aren't. Probably is. Um, how do I approach delivering messages that might be hard for people to hear? I think it's really important to be authentic and honest with people, and sometimes the messages can be quite blunt, but I do kind of say to them, this is what I'm getting, okay? And even if it doesn't resonate with them right now, it may do in the future. It's not always about right now, when it comes to, maybe the choices that they've currently made, can kind of be affecting a certain something as well. So I just think it's about being sensitive and understanding, but it's also about using your gifts too in regards to knowing how that person's going to kind of going to take it. But I think when you have a loving heart too, you kind of, it's not so much softening the message, but it's just being sensitive to the fact that it could be quite shocking or quite hurtful to them, depending on what the message actually is. But it is very important that you do give that message and be blunt and be honest, because it's also about having integrity in your business too, and your reputation when it comes to actually running a business as like a medium. Are there any situations that you would choose not to share with spirit? I think death a lot. Death isn't something like, I find I'm told someone's going to die. Usually it's only when it's like really, really strong. And usually I will only say that someone's going to pass away if um, they've been sick for a while and there's no other like options for them to explore, like say it's cancer or something, or if they're already really, really old and it's kind of expected that they're going to be, then my guides will kind of give me the push. Or if it's a really, really, really strong message from my guides, then I will actually say that someone is going to pass away. And there has been times when I haven't kind of shared things, but that's more about picking up what people are actually feeling about me and their lives, or what my grandmother used to say about them. Because she knows when people are like just using me or wanting freebies from me, and she doesn't really like it because she's like, you kind of, need to set more boundaries here, Angela. So she could be quite blunt. And yes, my Nana's in spirit, and she is very strong and very protective of me, sometimes overprotective, I think. So yeah, she's doing this because she knows I need to learn some stuff in regards to feeling unworthy. That just came up for me. There it is, something which I am continually having to work on as well. Okay. How do I protect my energy when dealing with heavier stuff and challenging spirits? Like I said before, I work with my guides, my tupuna. I do protection prayers and things like that, and work with crystals. I do everything that I can to protect my energy. I do have some really strong protectors though, especially in regards to my tupuna. And one of my guides is a male, like warrior spirit. I've got Vikings, I've got army guys, I've got lions. So they're all pretty fierce and very strong protectors that I have behind me, and I have a lot of them as well. Yep, I just heard my guides behind me saying, "She does. She has more of them than what I think I do." I heard exactly. Okay, so I'm already getting messages and sharing with you guys during this podcast as well. So, what advice would I give to someone who wants to explore their psychic abilities? I would say, if you are wanting to develop your just like seeing stuff, I just want you to concentrate on visualizing. Set the intention with your guides that that's what you want to do, that you want to become more clairvoyant. And maybe you'll get some messages. Dreams are really important. That's one of the ways in which you can develop. But just visualizing in general is one of the strongest ways that you can actually, and just set that intention, third eye stuff, with your guides actually. If you want to be more sensitive, start seeing what it's like to just like feel people as well. Maybe you'll go into a crowd and feel how people are kind of feeling. It's just really around setting those intentions with your guides and then just being really open to it as well. And probably the third thing will be to trust what it is that you are actually getting. Okay. When it comes to clairaudience, which is hearing things, you can maybe listen to like different music. Sometimes it's really important to do some of the stuff in the dark too, because that's like a whole other level that is. So try doing that, different music. Try and stretch your hearing too, to hearing stuff in your immediate vicinity, and then to your neighborhood, then to the whole city, then to the world. Kind of, strengthening it to like stretch your hearing as such, because that'll really help you guys as well. When it comes to the gift of like smell and things like that, maybe just start smelling different things. You could probably stretch that as well actually, and just taste different things. But it's just around setting intentions with the spirit guides if that's what you want to do, and then being open and just trusting what it is that you receive. Now there are courses and little things that you can do out there as well, and I am going to be releasing some mentorship programs this year, which I will talk about in future, probably not on the podcast, but probably through email and social media, etc. That I'm going to be doing. So definitely look out for that. I can't wait for that. I'll probably end up, actually, I am going to be writing a book too in the future about that, but I've just been told to shush my mouth in regards to that, so I will. Any practice or rituals that help me stay grounded? Definitely barefoot on the earth is probably the best way to ground. Spending time out in nature. As I said before, I actually sit on the ground outside and meditate, which is one of the, you do a double whammy really in order to do that. You can also work with animals. Animals will help ground your energy, protect your energy, and clear it as well. If you have like cats or animals hanging around, especially cats, they are huge protectors in the spiritual realm, and they're quite empathic as well, so they can help you release energy that you've been kind of carrying as well, so it's really great for that. There's also certain foods, especially root vegetables, can help you to ground, having something to eat. But yeah, the number one thing is just spending a lot of time out in nature as well, and it helps with your solar plexus because it's the sun. And also those light codes, if you heard about light codes, just being outdoors and connecting with nature is like the number one thing when it comes to like grounding and balancing your energy, and just imagining those roots coming out of like your root chakra or your feet down to the center of the earth. is amazing. Or just touching a tree even can help ground your energy, and work with the trees in order to do that. It's a really good way to kind of ground your energy. How can someone learn to trust their intuition more? Oh, I think to begin with, just trust it. And you'll start to trust it more when you realize the messages you're receiving are right, because I know that they will be. Okay. So just, once you start doing it and giving those messages, or even just writing them down or whatever, and you realize that they're actually right, like eventually, because sometimes they don't always happen like for you. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a while, but just talk to your guides about it as well. So it's just trusting them, and start writing things down if you have to. Okay. And you may find eventually, it's like connecting dots, really, like those dot to dot things. You might a little bit of a message, a little bit of another message, and then you have to kind of connect them, everything together. And eventually you'll be like, oh shit, that's what they meant. So it's kind of like that in regards to receiving messages. But it takes you just communicating with your guides to do that. So you'll just need to trust it once you start getting an accurate message. And then the more that you trust them, though, the more they actually give you, is what I do want to say. Okay, so just start trusting. Oh, what's the most rewarding thing about my work as a medium? I think when you get messages from people saying how much you really helped them, how much they really appreciated it. And I think, it just opens up a whole, working with whole other realms and working with them is so great. Like, it's so loving and kind. Some of these people, like spirits that you work with and energies you work with, I just really enjoy it, to be honest with you. I don't know what I would be doing if I wasn't doing this. I really don't know what I'd be doing. I think the most rewarding thing is just knowing you've really helped someone. And there's been times when I've stopped people from unaliving themselves. There's times when I've helped women leave really violent relationships, and all these things, and help them heal from some SA type of trauma and things like that. I've helped them release like emotions that they've been holding onto for like a really, really long time, and helping them like move forward from things which were really not serving them and were not good for them. And I think that's the most rewarding thing that I've done. Oh, how has it changed my view of life or death? For me, death is not the end. Spirit lives on. For me, it's more like a transition. And so I don't really believe in death anymore. Like, I'm not scared to die anymore, because I know that I'm going to go on. I also know that when I pass away, I'm actually going to be helping other mediums. I kind of said that I want to be a spirit guide, and I want to guide those who are doing the mahi that I've been doing, other healers, mediums, spiritualists. That's what I want to do when I go. On life, oh my gosh. I actually know that this is my final life. I just had a lot of people, especially men, in my life, who kind of told me that it was their final lives. It actually wasn't. It turns out that it's actually mine. They're picking up on my energy and reading me. So I think because of this, what I will tell you is make the most of your life. Chase your dreams, and don't care what anyone thinks about them. Because that'll actually stop you from bloody achieving them. That's one of the biggest roadblocks, is listening to the opinions of other people, especially ones who haven't done what it is that you're doing or wanting to do. So just make the most of your life, and chase your dreams, because you never know if you're going to be coming back. And why would you want to be stuck doing something that you don't love doing? That's the question that I would ask you. Like, why? Why would you do that to yourself? Are there any messages or insights you receive frequently from spirits that you'd like to share? Yes, there is. And I think I kind of just said a lot of it as well. I think the overall message that I want to send from everybody that I've done readings for, in regards to connecting with their past loved ones and with their spirit, with spirit, is I just want you to know how much they adore you, how much they love you, and they're actually okay. They get a lot of healing when they cross over as well, so don't worry about them. I personally, I don't believe in hell, to be honest with you. I believe that a lot of people actually get healing after they cross over. So that's what the angels and God, etc., is actually there for, is to provide healing for them. So I don't want you to worry about them. They're perfectly fine. I know and I will tell you something. What I found with most people that I've read that ask if their loved ones on the other side are okay, it's usually because you're not the one that's not okay. Because you're the one who's gone through a loss and is grieving, and that's actually okay. It's part of the grieving process as well, to want to know if they're okay. But yes, they are actually okay. They get healing over there. I know because I've had some experiences around that. But yeah, that's what I wanted to let you guys know. That would be my final message for you guys. But anyway, let me know if this was helpful, if there's anything more that you would like to know about mediumship or any other experiences that you would like me to share, or tell me about your own experiences that you've had with spirits, or if you're a psychic medium, about your work with spirits and some of the experiences that you have had, and around your beliefs around it. I'm open for discussion. But yeah, and this was the second episode of In Bed with Angela, as I'm in bed, as you can see. And I'll be back next time. I don't know what the topic's going to be, but of course this podcast is all about spirituality and things that go bump in the night. Bye, guys.